My name is Iryna Manukovska, and this is Make Your Innovation Work. And today I host Jenny Lindblad. She's called Pitch Queen. And it's a very bold statement because Jenny helps startups, innovators, CEOs to make very complicated concept easy to understand, easy to grab, to inspire people, to lead people. So, Jenny, can you please introduce yourself, how you're related to storytellings? What does ELIZA Communications do for the clients, and which kind of clients you're working with? So, how you're related to this innovation sphere?
Okay, thank you. I actually started out as an engineer, and I worked for a big company called Ericsson that I think most of you know. So I started out as an engineer, and then in their supply chain, and then I was working way too much. So I almost burnt out. And then I got two coaches, one that helped me to find another job and one to help me survive. Which sounds awful. But it was very fortunate to have two coaches. So when I started my new job at Ericsson, I had no idea what I was actually going to do. And then it turns out that my new role was to present the Ericsson or the company's portfolio to all their VIP customers from all around the world. And these were mainly C-suites like CEOs, CMOs, TOs, and lots of ministers, royalties, investors. So very high level. And I did this for 5 years, and I did more than 5,000 presentations. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot on how to grab the attention. We used tons of storytelling and just making people engage and getting into that second meeting. That was the whole goal, to get that next discussion. So, and then one day there was a big layoff, and I was laid off, unfortunately, or unfortunately at the time, the best things that ever happened to me. And then I came across the startup community. So I had no idea what the startup was, but came across the community, and then it turns out that they needed someone helping them with their pitches. And I thought, this is what I've done at Ericsson. Maybe I can help you guys. So I helped a couple of startups out because I didn't have anything better to do than looking for another job. And then I got really great recommendations, and other people and incubators started calling me and asking me for help. So that is then I started ELIZA Communication. So I work mainly with startups or scale-ups when they are looking for investments. So I help them raise capital by creating better stories and taking their very advanced techniques, sometimes really hard to understand, and helping them to make their stories into a very clear and precise and easy to understand. And then also I actually work with VCs when they are getting funded, and I work a lot with corporates when it comes to sales pitches, networking pitches, keynote speeches, podcasts, when they are going to be on panels. I like everything within communication in the shorter format. And then also I do some international trainings with a colleague of mine in a course called Strategic Communication.
Amazing. When we first met during the second Future of Ukraine Innovation Summit in Stockholm a couple of months ago, I felt in love with the idea of yours. You were one of the speaker in one of the panels that actually this kind of storytelling, like an instrument, as a tool. It's about bringing the right people on board, like investors, teammates, employees, and whomever you need, actually, just to make them on your side. So, and you told that you are part of this startup area for more than 10 years. So, on your observation, has something changed in this storytelling approaches? How startups used to pitch like 10 years ago and how they pitch now? So, do you see some kind of, like, I don't know, trends here, or it's just the same stuff, good story, emotions, bring some authenticity? I don't know.
No, I think that it's a huge change. When I was first starting out, no one really wanted a pitch coach. So they were sort of forced. The first accelerator I worked with, in order to be accepted to be on stage presenting for the investors, they had to go through my training. Otherwise, they were not allowed on stage. Because when I started out, most startups, I think, financially it was a really, really good time. And they were a little bit obnoxious, saying, my product is so cool, or my
Oh,
company is so cool. I don't need any pitch training. It's going to sell itself. And sometimes it did, but when I came in, it started to be tough. So it wasn't that easy. And suddenly, and this incubator saw how they could increase the number of second meetings due to a really, really great pitch. And then I've seen, the trend going forward. So for me, I think that the startups that I coach, they come in at a much higher level now. So they are way more better prepared. They don't have that attitude anymore. They have done lots of research. So when I meet them, they already have, a pretty okay, most of them, they have a pretty okay pitch, but can need some fine tuning. And now when the financials timing is pretty tough, they have realized that it's more important than ever to have a really, really great pitch. And it's more important than ever because the money is out there. There are money out there, but the
there are no
investors are
easy
not
money
just
now. Yeah,
throwing. Yeah, they're
yeah.
not throwing it out there. The money is still there. There are funding to get, but now they're more they're more skeptical with who they invest in. So you really, really need, and you can't get those crazy valuations that you could get a few years back. And also what we talked a lot about in this event where you and I met was, which I think is such an interesting aspect, is if you come in as a startup and you don't have that traction, you don't have any customers, maybe you don't have any revenue, how can you get the valuation up? Because you don't want to give away too much percentage. So how can you create value? The only way how to do that is through stories, because you tell them a story of what the future can look like. Then I think the story itself, it has become more and more about authenticity, as you said, but not that much. And I think the outline for how to do a great story, they are still the same. There are a couple of few. This, you have the star model, you have the dragon and the sleigh, and you have the 7 steps, and so you have different kind of, depending on how you want to build your story. So that's always going to be the same. I think it's the same almost all the way back to Aristoteles, but it's how they utilize it and how they also dare to work with stories. Before, it's a little bit like, now I can't tell a story, but now they started to realize the importance of a story and how much feelings you can create.
Amazing. And so you were talking a lot about this like perfect pitch or killing pitch. So, and you just mentioned a couple of models, how you basically can do this. I mean, to use to tell your story. So, what are the critical components of any startup pitch? So, what you should consider, I mean, regarding the model you use, but what should be like the start, beginning, what you should appeal to, or what are the most critical things you need to be really good at?
I I just would like to say one thing before I get into that, and that is, I think a lot of people don't understand that we actually pitch every day and almost all the time. I think we way too often we think about a pitch as a sales pitch or an investor pitch, and then directly feel like, no, that's nothing for me, or it doesn't apply to me. And that's what I think is so fascinating with storytelling and pitching, because everyone pitch all the time. I have to pitch for my kids, why should you finish your food? Or I pitch if I want to get a discount, or I pitch with my partner where we want to go on vacation, or I pitch for my colleagues, or I pitch for my clients. You do it all the time without really thinking about it. So, and when it comes to all kind of pitching, I think it's really, really important that you are very clear with what's your goal. What's the goal with the pitch? And I really think that it should be measurable. It shouldn't just be like, oh, I want them to have a feeling. Feeling, it's very, very hard to. I mean, where can you take the next step? Do you have a feeling or not? It's very hard to. to measure. So to be very, very crystal clear with what's your goal for the pitch, and also to know who are you pitching for. Those are two crucial things. Who are you pitching for? What are their drives? What's in it for them? I mean, that's something that I mention every single day to my customers. What's in it for them? What's in it for them, for their customers? Why should they invest in you? Where's the fun part? Or, how does it match their portfolio? Is this in their values? So that's really, really important. And when it comes to the pitch for investors, if we focus on that one, I would say it's really important to understand the problem and to be able to explain it very, very short, and how you are addressing the problem, and emphasize on why now, what makes you different, and why is now the great timing. And then, of course, every investor, they invest in the team. A lot of startups forget that and think that they're only investing in the product, but they're not. They're investing in the team. So it's really important to know who you have on your team and how you complement each other. Of course, you won't have the full team, because you are a startup, and the investors know that. But to be able to see, okay, they have this and that skill. Oh, okay, they're missing sales. Well, I'm awesome in sales, or I know someone. So they will directly see how they can help, because usually investors don't just want to put in money, because then it's smarter to go to the bank, right? Or to put it in the stock market. To invest in startups, that's like high risk. So they also do it because they think it's fun, or they want to be part of it, or they want to be part of your journey. So, put all the cards on the table. What are your expertise? What are you missing? How do you complement each other? And also, it's important to showcase how you have planned the future, that your go-to-market strategy, the steps. How are you going to, get on board customers? How are you going to get the big sales? How are you going to expand? Showcase that for me. And then also, personally, I like to know their whys. Why are they jumping out of bed? Why are you crazy enough working 16 hours a day? Why do you, do this maybe over taking care of your family, or, running a startup that takes a lot of time and energy, and you sacrifice a lot. And the 99% of the day, you try to solve problems. It's not always a fun ride. So why do you do that? What is your passion? That's important for me.
I think it's
Long
very
answer.
no, it's cool answer. I think just to sum up, what strikes me personally, that this kind of like surgery clearness, I would say. So you need to be very aware of what are your strong sides. I mean, like team, who you have on board, your market. You can make it simple. I mean, the idea of yours, and you also need to understand what is missing, because this shows your maturity. If you understand where you're good in and where you need to, I don't know, have some extra, and you know what to ask, it's more mature, more professional than you bring just some very extremely optimistic vision of the future, which has no fundamentals and foundation. And any experienced investor, they may like your idea, but if you're not mature enough, if you're not aware enough of your problems or possible challenges, not every challenge obviously, but I mean, like in general, that you need to sell to people, you need to find paying customers, so it won't help you.
No.
Yeah. And are there any kind of like storytelling strategies? Because the thing we were discussing during event we met and other events, so there are no easy money on the market, and just like you said, the investments are still there. So from this, I can make a conclusion that to build relations with investor, you need to interact not only one time. I mean, you have done one pitch, you just initiated, there is a second meeting, perfect, but it doesn't mean that they bring money to the second meeting. So obviously you need to create some kind of relations with them, and maybe with other investors, because okay, you may be like seed you may be at angel investment stage. I mean, and you need different kind of investors from different stage of yours. So are there any kind of like this strategies where you can use storytelling or storytelling strategies, how you can actually build these relations with your investor. I mean, like using storytelling, for example, on social media to tell about your startup, like track record, we're doing this, we're going there, or maybe some other examples. So are there any kind of like a strategic approach here?
Well, I'm more a specialist on like the oral communication, not so my social media content or strategy is not my forte. I'm still struggling there myself. But I think what's really, really important is to tell your stories, not just say like, "Oh, we did this," or tell good and bad. Be real. I think that's what the world is craving right now. Be real, and if you have geeks in your startup, show them. Be proud of them. I mean, every single part is doing the puzzle. If you I remember I forgot to say that in the intro, but I've also been working at a startup. I quit September, but I've been working at a startup for 2.5 years as, among other things, their CMO, head of communication, and chief storyteller. And one of the things that I remember, because they were building their deep tech startup, and when developing, we were in so much success. They hardly ever failed because they were so thorough, and they were really doing their job really, really well. And then I think it was maybe we had been working together for 1.5 years, and they had a big failure. The whole shebang smashed in the floor, and things got broken, and they were devastated. So I decided to go up 4 a.m. the next morning, and I baked an apple pie for everyone in the company, and then it took me 1 hour to where they're sitting. So I put it in the car, but it was still warm when I got there, and I said, let's celebrate, because this was our first failure. And to be able to celebrate also failures and talk about those and be proud of those, because when we fail, we learn fast. It wasn't fun, things broke, we had to wait, but my God, we learned so much. And so I think that every story is important to tell. The one thing that I'm very, very hard with everyone I coach is that you're never ever allowed to lie. If you lie, I'm out. I don't work with you anymore. So it doesn't have to be true, but it can be, a fictive story, but you're never, ever allowed to lie.
So you can bring your some kind of vision, but you're not telling we have paying customers when you don't have one.
Exactly. So you can say when we have paying customers, or let's say that this could be one of our paying customers. I think also it's important, especially for B2B companies, to when they use storytelling, and this is something that I learned at Ericsson. I mean, at Ericsson, we to be very make it very, very simple. Let's say we sell network and base stations, and we meet the big operators like AT&T, Telia, France Telecom.
I mean, Ericsson is serving operators all over the world, yeah.
Yeah. But Ericsson sells to like AT&T and Bouygues or France Telecom or Telia. So when I met then with the top management team, for example, at Telia, then if I could present a story where their end user was part of it, then they could see. And this is how you can tell a story if you want to increase the valuation. Because then I would tell a story about a person that, of course, loved our product. Otherwise, I'm not selling. They would love our product. And then I show the possibility of what if more people use it, or more people. And then, so I built the whole story from one person so that they realized, okay, this is fantastic. And then I scaled it. And that's one way to see that scalability. That's one way to actually increase then the valuation of your company, because then it gives the idea of how big it can be. Like, wow, this could actually be a unicorn.
Yeah,
So you have to plant
and
that.
so sorry.
No, I was done.
No, I just like one quick thought here that it looks like when you're making this one real example, maybe it's like hypothetical customer, but you know this kind of type of customer they exist. So you make it real because you're using like real example of real customer, and afterwards you start to scale and extrapolate. Okay, we may have like 10,000 of customers like this or 100. So imagine this. I think it's very powerful because you create a very strong connection with reality, but you also have a vision.
Yeah, but I also I would like to point out something here, because I think that a lot of people, they don't always think about the customers or the investors as human people. And by the end of the day, they're all human people, and everyone uses a pen, or everyone drinks water from a glass, or so they're also the end users. And if we can get that into the head, and for them to realize, oh, I would like to use this, then they will probably see that their friends would like to use this, and their friends, and then maybe everyone in Europe, and then they can see the potential. And I think this is so interesting also, because I know I always forget so many things in my intro. One other thing that I forgot in my intro is that I'm also a speaker coach for TEDx. So anyone who doesn't have heard about TED Talks, Google it. It's awesome. Super fast way to learn amazing stuff. And I'm very fortunate to sometimes have the opportunity to coach some of the speakers. And there is one interesting TED Talk just about how you can build a great TED Talk. And one point there that I thought about for many years, even before I heard about TED Talks, was that I used then at Ericsson, was to talk about the future. Like, what if? In TED Talks, they use the word imagine a lot, and I use that at Ericsson also, also before TED had started. But so they talk about imagine. So you start with maybe one person, the investors or the customer or whatever, and then you start to scale it, and then you can have imagine, what if everyone would use this. Money, right?
Yeah,
So
it's like target addressable market, the whole market. I
exactly.
start to see these diagrams. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of saying this is tam sam som, oh, super boring, then you plant the seed. Like, with this amount of one startup that I'm coaching right now, that looking on how to grade in schools. Okay, so if you can save this amount of money, and everyone knows that there are tons of schools out there, so I will grasp that I will understand that this has a huge potential even before they even say how many schools there are out there. So, with storytelling, it's so easy to get that relatable feeling. And feeling is, that's magic.
It's amazing. And in the very beginning, you mentioned that when you're making pitch, you need to have a goal and you need to have some kind of like measurables behind. So, what are typical measurables that could be used here when you pitch, and I don't know, investors, or you came to networking event and you just like try to improve your sales pitch? What could be your measurables?
So for me, I have usually different goals. So, my whole job when I was working at Ericsson was to make sure that the customer went into the second meeting. Then in that second meeting, I wasn't part, and usually the top management team wasn't part of that meeting. Usually, it was maybe middle management, or
It's like more
the safety
technical
people.
one.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but once the CEO has signed off that this is something we want to look into, then they already have the okay for some sort of budget. So then it's more into how are they going to make it work, and is it interesting, and will it fit, etc. So, and I think when I work with coaching startups, it's that pitch in the first meeting, because you don't really pitch in the second meeting, because then they already know you. Then it's a totally different meeting. Then you have a dialogue. They will tell you what they want to talk about. You have to prepare that, etc. But the first meeting, to get through that door, to create that interest. So then a very simple way to measure that is, of course, if you get into a second meeting. Super easy. Did I succeed or did I not?
So
Or
basically,
if
it's
you're
like
at
a
an event.
conversion rate here. Yeah.
Exactly. And when I'm at a sales meeting, then usually I got this really great advice from a friend of mine. She is a sales coach, and she always take one of these. I happen to have them here, actually in pink also, so they match
Yeah.
your font. But so she take one of those, with sticker notes, and she write down 3 things that she wants to achieve, and she put it on the steering wheel just before she enters the customer meeting, to have that focus just before you go in. And I realized that when I do that, I actually reach those goals, to have that crystal clear focus. And that could be the deal, that could be the second meeting, or that could be, out of their 10 speakers, I want to coach 5 of them. So try to be very specific. When it comes to networking events, I have this this love-hate relationship. I'm super extrovert sometimes. I love being at events. I love meeting new people for a certain amount of time. Then
First 30 seconds.
so I get there all excited. So I always challenge myself, if I'm going to go to an event, which takes away time from being with my small children, then I have, it has to be worth it. So for me, I always have a goal. And usually at networking events, I have a goal of connecting with 5 people. Five is a good number. And 3, I usually find like 5 or 6 people that are on my dream list. And I have as a goal that 3 of them I'm going to have a second meeting with before the end of the evening. And then I have 2 wild cards. So I have to find 2 people that are super interesting, so that I want to have a second meeting. And then I have to land that second meeting. And that's pretty fun, because I talk to the people I want to talk to. I try to get that sales. And then once I'm done with the 5, then I'm allowed to only have fun, or then I'm allowed to go home. So I'm not allowed to go home before I nail those 5. So I start pretty early. And then, the faster I am, the rest of the time I can just enjoy and have fun. So
I think
that's my strategy.
I think it's very amazing strategy, because a lot of people, they feel a little bit anxious during the networking event. So even if you came for some kind of like meetup or conference, I mean, so you came with a purpose already, but you don't have this clear focus. And I will steal this idea with post-it notes, with sticker notes on steering wheel, or on laptop screen when you're preparing for your next Zoom call, because it helps a lot to just keep this thing in mind, and
The
you just
focus.
focus on what is critical for you. Yeah. So maybe you will have some extras, but at least you will work hard on your criticals, and will may get you more result than when you just like start to be distracted by a lot of things, because normally we're distracted. And for networking event like this is very useful approach, I think, as well, especially for people who feel a little bit uncomfortable there. So if you have a goal and you have your like pitch prepared at home, so my name is Iryna, or my name is Jenny, I help people too. I mean, this very easy peasy formula. It's cool. It works.
And I think it's so important for everyone, all the entrepreneurs out there. It doesn't matter if you're a tech startup, or whatever you do. If you run your own business and you go at networking events, I mean, there is so many things that you need to do in your company. You don't have time to just, let's see if this networking event gives something. You have to be focused.
Yeah, you need to like grab your opportunity. And one
Otherwise, you just get a corporate job, then you have time to just mingle for fun.
Yeah, but it's like different style of job. I mean, it's like more
Yeah.
process oriented. I think like entrepreneurship and startup, they're more result oriented because you can't allow to you invest a lot of in processes in the sake of
No,
processes
but
corporations do.
I was also kidding. Of course, in corporates, they also have their
Oh,
goals. I was just kidding. Yeah, yeah. But it's a little bit more, result oriented in startups with the shorter timelines,
yeah, obviously. And one quick
faster
question
pace.
here. So, for example, if I go for a networking event, is there any kind of like tip? What is the best formula for this introduction pitch? Because during the startup events, or not startup, sorry, networking events, we pitch ourselves. It doesn't mean that we want to sell everyone in the room, but we pitch what we can do for them or maybe their network. So, is there any kind of formula or what you would recommend to use to introduce yourself in the best way?
I would be very careful not to just pitch it, because it is a dialogue, and the person also coming to the event, they also want there to have fun. They don't just want anyone to come up and say, "Hi, my name is Jenny. I work for a startup. We are blah 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 blah. Are you interested in investing?" You will feel like you're pushed into the wall, or pushed into the corner, and that doesn't feel well. So, try to be like you're talking to your friend, and then make sure that you have a really, really strong hook, so that they will say, "Wow, that sounds interesting." But you have to have a hook that's connected to your startup, not this long fetched thought with a joke that you have thought about that's crystal clear for you, but no one else will get. Because that I see quite often, that they say something just to get the attention. And then when people start asking, it doesn't have anything to do with your company. And then you're totally lost, or like, why did they tell me that in the beginning? So for example, in my case, I could say, I help startup get funded. Oh, okay, cool. How do you do that? And then I have a dialogue, and then maybe I answer one or two questions. I don't spend a lot of time, because people are there to mingle. People are there to drink cocktails. People are not there to hear my whole how I build up a pitch talk, right? So I let them ask two or three questions, and then I say, I would love to tell you more about this. Let's book a meeting.
Okay,
And
sounds.
then I book the meeting, and then I say, let's go and mingle with some more people. And then I go to the next one and the next one. So, getting the 5 leads, that could be done in like 30 minutes
Yeah,
if
and
you're
it's
fast.
like very or in an hour, but still you have plenty of time to have the rest of the evening for yourself, family, or whatever.
Exactly, exactly. So when I say that, I have 5, with this strategy to do it very fast, of course, then I also ask, what they are doing, of course, because I also, if it's one of my wild cards, then I need to understand, could this be an interesting meeting for me? Because I can't just take a meeting to take the meeting, because I don't have that time.
Yeah, obviously it's like you're validating the peer as well, and so
Exactly, exactly.
amazing. And we have one like feedback from Anna. She's very thankful for such a great piece of advice from your side.
Oh,
So it sounds
thank you.
like we like straight to someone's hearts. I think it's very important that we can brought some value. So maybe we just like on top of our 30 minutes podcast. So maybe you have some kind of like this last killing tip for anyone who struggles with pitches or presenting themselves. Something just to start to do or to think about, or some kind of like mindset, whatever. Just to start to practice more, basically.
Yeah, I love that you say practice, because I think that there's still way too many people that does it on a fly, and think that, oh, I always get so good feedback when I do it on the fly. Um, but then it's not sharp enough. I like when people are prepared. Uh, it has to be genuine. You have to use your own wording. Everyone I coach, they have to write a script word by word. And what's very interesting there is that they usually write it in a written language. So it doesn't sound like them, So, it has to be your language with your uh, hiccups or with your favorite words, and also keep in mind too that the language should be like you're presenting it for a 5-year-old. It's not because the investors should be stupid, because they are not. They're super, super smart, as well as your customers and, your kids as well.
Yeah, just like
But it's,
very busy.
yeah, because, the easier it is, the easier for them to get it, the more likely you are to get into that second meeting. So have, be you, be real. They invest in teams. So it's really, really important that you are you. And then you need to deliver it with passion. I, as an investor, I forgot to say that also. I also invest. But as an investor, I want to see that passion. If you don't have that passion, I'm not going to be behind you, trying to push you forward and say, let's go, let's go. I need to feel that, because that's what's interesting for me. I want to, as an investor, I want to jump on board with people that are passionate. I want to be there and help them. And so you need to show your passion. Um, in some cases, when I'm low and I'm going up on stage, going to show my passion, I do some breathing exercises, or I do some winning poses, anything that gets my energy and passion up. So whatever works for you, listen to music. I had one period when I only listened to the song Human, because it had a good beat. So I, started dancing, and then I came out and I was like, yeah, let's do this. After a while, I got tired of that song. So you need to find what's right for you to showcase that passion. I've heard investors say that if they can't see the passion within 10 seconds, they pick up their phone and start Googling. It's
Uh,
tragic, but true.
no, I think passion is very important, because as a startup founder, you should be the engine who makes this train goes round and round, because it's a hard
Yeah.
journey. And
Yeah.
someone should be like really inspired with an idea to overcome all the challenges, because there should be enormous obstacles on anyone's way, and it demands a lot of passion, energy, and dedication, actually. So maybe that's why investors are looking for these qualities. And sometimes startup founders, what I see, they're so tired, they're so overwhelmed, they like pitching,
Yeah.
okay, they're like this a little bit boring, tired style, and the idea maybe like really breaks through, but it's hard to believe that they're really able to do it.
Yeah.
And it's sad. We need to bring something more positive to the end.
Well,
um,
then I can tell you, I think that a lot of startups, they think of, and I get that, because it takes a lot of time to be fundraising, and they're like, oh no, we have to pitch for investors again. But I try to see it at the other way around. I mean, here you have a possibility to convince people about your product. Here you have the possibility to share your story, to share your vision, to share how you can change the world, and you can invite people to be part of that journey. And the other day, I got a message from one of my earlier customers a long way back, and they have just been fundraising their, I think it's their A round. So I met them a few years back, and they came up to me and they're like, Jenny, I took everything that you told me and I started pitching, and very quickly, from going from hating it, I started to loving it, because I got fantastic reactions from the investors. I got fantastic investors on my board. I got fantastic investors investing in the company that I can use as ball plank. And and I thought, then that was such a great feedback for me to get, for someone who has sort of hated being, first of all, hated being on stage, but that we fixed pretty fast. But then to go from thinking that fundraising is the bad evil, to like, wow, now I have a chance to get new money, I can run faster, I can expand my company, and I have to I can choose who I want to, because that's really important. You have to choose who you has as an investor on your team as well. So it's not only them choosing you as a startup, you have to choose the right investor. And in this case, he felt like, wow, I can really choose who I want as an investor that can help me bring the company even forward faster.
I think it's like sounds like a falling in love with the idea of growth and spreading the word about what you're doing.
Exactly.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jenny, for such a great bunch of advices and tips you gave, and for your experience. I'm personally impressed with this, like women leadership and women entrepreneurship backline we have here as well, because you have started your own company, and it also may be hard. So thank you for bringing this perspective as well for other women who are thinking about launching their consulting company. So it may be interesting journey, but you need to learn how to pitch. So I recommend everyone to grab as much as you can from this podcast and from Jenny, because all these pieces of devices are really, really valuable, and they really works, even if they sound very easy. It's the most trickiest part. So thank you so much, Jenny, for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure. Love being here.
Have a great day to all of you.